welcome to another jewelry making video brought to you by keepsakecrafts.net. Today we're going to look at some more basics. This time we're going to look at the basics of simply stringing beads on bead wire. You can use just that simple technique to make yourself some lovely jewelry. To make this necklace you will need a strand of assorted beads in colors of your choice. It's nice to buy these strands already pre-assorted. Also a couple strands of crystal beads in two different sizes. These are about 4mm, these are around 6mm. You'll need some bead stringing wire, chain nose pliers, crimping pliers, and wire cutters. You'll also need findings. All of ours are sterling silver. These are some round corrugated spacer beads, a lobster clasp, 2x3mm crimping tubes, and some solid fused jump rings. You will also find one of these bead design boards very helpful in making string designs. And what you can do, I've already cut this wire off. You can lay out your strand of beads in one of the channels and then just pull out the wire, and now they're all in place. So to design this, I've decided I'm going to make a necklace with 4 strands, and I've pulled out these 4 purple crystals for the second strand. And then it's just a matter of filling in. I'm going to start with some of these larger crystals, and I'll put one on either side. And then just continue filling in with the large crystals, the smaller ones, and with the silver. So I sped up the design process here so as not to bore you to death. But what I'm basically doing is adding the same bead to either side of my main focal beads. So each of the main focal beads will have a silver bead on either side, or one of the large crystals, or one of the small crystals. I'm not overly concerned with symmetry, but I just thought I would make that much symmetry. And then I'm filling in between them with, a larger crystal and then smaller ones on either side. Again, not 100% symmetrical, just filling it in and trying to make a pleasing and balanced arrangement. One thing I realized was that I had run out of beads and I didn't have enough to make the length, so you'll see me in a minute here bring in these glass beads, and these are just leftovers from strands of beads. They're spacers, and so I use them to fill in between my crystals and give me the length that I needed for the necklace. And so this all took about 10-15 minutes. So really, as you can see here, the work in stringing isn't really the stringing. You'll see in a minute the stringing is very simple. The work is in the designing, in planning out your layout. So once you have it all planned, then it's time to cut yourself a piece of bead stringing wire and go ahead and start stringing your beads. And the best way to do it is to leave it on the spool as you string. However, another tool that is wonderfully handy are these. These are called bead bugs, and they're just little springs with handles. And what that will do is clamp on to the end of your wire. So if you have a spare length of wire that you're using, or you just want to cut a piece, you can just clamp that on, and it's a bead stopper. But whenever possible, I like to work on the spool of wire. So I'm going to go ahead and string these 2 strands, and my board isn't long enough, but I'll make this one long enough to just be a little bit shorter than this outer one. And the measurements are wonderfully helpful because they show you that this necklace is going to be about 29 inches long. It's not exact because these beads aren't lying the way they will be in the necklace, but it gives you the idea. So you just use your piece of wire like a piece of thread and start putting your beads on. So once you've finished stringing and you're satisfied with the length, and notice that the length of this was actually quite a bit less once the beads are all condensed on the string. Once you're satisfied with your arrangement and the length, go ahead and cut off the wire, leaving a few extra inches on each end, and then clamp each end or secure it somehow, and repeat with your second strand. So once all of your strands are strung, it's time to finish them up with some crimp tubes. This is the way we finish the wire ends of stringing wire. So take your bead bug off of one end and string on a crimp tube, and then string on one of the soldered jump rings. Put the end back through the crimp tube, and then pull it up. You want the jump ring to be able to move freely, but you want as little as possible showing. You want both of these wires to be lying flat, not crossed over each other inside the crimp tube. Then take your crimping pliers. You'll notice there's a round shape and a U shape. Start with the round shape, wrap it around the tube, and give it a squeeze. I like to and then switch to the U shape and give it another squeeze. And then give a tug on your jump ring. It shouldn't come loose. If it does, you'll have to start over. If it doesn't, go ahead and just trim off that little bit of wire nice and close so it doesn't, nothing remains to scratch the skin. And then repeat on this end, attaching the second strand to the same jump ring and then another jump ring on the other end. So here they are all strung. The final step is to use your wire cutters to cut a split in one of the jump rings so that you can open it and use it to attach your lobster clasp to one of the other jump rings. So right through there and through there. Close it up and you're all done. Here's another look at the project that we made today. By the way, if you'd like to add some length to it, feel free to add a small piece of chain to the end without the lobster clasp. Add some chunky chain and then you'll be able to make it not only longer but adjustable to whatever length you like. So I hope you've enjoyed this project and that you'll give it a try. Thank you so much for watching Keepsake Crafts videos. Please be sure to click on the subscribe button so that you subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't miss a thing. And check out my blog keepsakecrafts.net for lots more crafting and sewing ideas and inspiration. On the screen there are 2 more jewelry making videos that you might enjoy. So thanks again for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.